were responsible too if there was anything that needed correction in terms of the electronics of the plane. We had the whole range of electric switches in our place, and were able to keep an eye on that as well. The Morse code, obviously you had to have that pretty well perfect by the time you'd finished training, and there was a certain similarity between the other pieces of machinery that meant that you were able to go to one plane or another.
Okay.
It was at that time that quite large transmitters that now would be done with very small machines, quite large transmitters were there, and so you had responsibility to set them up and to tune in on a particular signal, and once you had the signal that you could record it. We would try to get as much information as we could about the weather, but the knowledge of what it was going to be like over a particular target, because it was in the area of the coastal problems weather-wise, we would never be too sure what exactly the weather was going to be even when we arrived at a place. In the earlier part of our work, the high-level bombing that I spoke of, we would be at a height of 10,000, 12,000 feet, and we're able to either go above or below the rough weather. But once we started the deep sea mining, we were at 200 feet, so that we just had to stay where we were, and this was where we had sometimes a battle to get through because we had not been warned about the bad weather that was there. We would listen out to other planes, and if there was a tragedy that had developed where somebody would say, well, we've been attacked by a fighter plane and looks as though we'll have to land, we could pass that information on. But basically, it was the ability to send out emergency messages, to receive any change of plan. Sometimes you would be directed to another target, in which case they would send a message. We would get the weather reports that were ready and use them, but 80% of the time we were the ones who sent the weather reports because we were right on where the harbour was that we were attacking. So we would send back a weather report about that particular harbour. And within the plane itself, we were responsible for the ability of various members of the crew to talk to one another. They all had an earphones, and so the whole crew would be aware of what you were saying if you were giving a new sense of direction. It was quite an important part of the crew's activities. The navigator would give you information that had to be transmitted back to base about the weather and any other crises that might have happened. And sometimes we tried to get a crew to redirect their entry to a place if in fact we found there was a large warship there and needed to be avoided. But by and large it was just being the centre of communication within the plane and also with the base.